Welcome to Reading and Writing Skills, Patterns of Development in Writing Across Disciplines, featuring the narration pattern in writing a paragraph. Second semester, quarter 3, week 1. I am Mr. Nelpin Sambalod and I am your teacher for this course. Class, I would like you to close your eyes. And as you do it, would you please imagine yourselves when you were still young, when your parent bought you a balloon? As you held it in your hand, you wanted to fly up the sky using it. Can you imagine yourselves flying in the sky by just having that balloon? Now open your eyes. Look at that image. Can you associate the feelings that you had when you imagined yourselves having that balloon in your hand and flying up the sky? Can you tell us the feelings or what really happened by the time? As you do so, you call it narration. Developing one's reading and writing skills is not easy. There are learners who can read but are not able to express themselves in writing well. You have a lot of ideas in mind, but sometimes you may find it hard to organize these ideas coherently. However, the good thing is that there are many ways on how you can write effectively. In this lesson, you will learn one way of developing your paragraph. This is true narration. What students need to know. This lesson exposes students on how to develop their writing ability through the use of the patterns of developing paragraphs. The learner will be able to critique a chosen sample of each pattern of development, focusing on information, selection, organization, and development. This contains the use of appropriate devices in connecting ideas to identify the pattern employed in the sample paragraph, as well as to develop unified thoughts through writing. The lesson is divided into 8 lessons, namely Lesson 1, Narration, Lesson 2, Description, Lesson 3, Definition, Lesson 4, Exemplification or Classification, Lesson 5, Comparison and Contrast, Lesson 6, Cause and Effect, Lesson 7, Problem Solution Essay, and Lesson 8, Persuasion. After going through this lesson, you're expected to familiarize yourself with the different writing patterns in paragraph development, identify the transitional words and phrases using different writing patterns, write a short paragraph using certain writing pattern, and distinguish the uses and the differences of each writing pattern. What's in? We have learned in our previous lesson that written text as connected discourse is formed from spontaneous discreteness that predetermine its connectedness. It means that the text itself does not have meaning and its meaning can be determined by their connectedness. We also learned techniques in selecting and organizing information by identifying relevant and irrelevant ideas or information. After learning these skills in organizing information, you must learn some writing patterns on how you can develop paragraphs. So, what does it mean? It tells us that even though you know a lot of words, you put them together, you join them together, but you do not know how to make use of words that will be connecting them for them to have meaningful thoughts, then it would be useless. So it's always good that even that you know a lot of words and you know how to put them together or writing them together as a paragraph and communicating a certain thought to your readers. That's why it is said here that after learning these skills in organizing information, you must learn some writing patterns on how you can develop paragraphs. So it is a must for you to know words, to put words together becoming phrases, phrases becoming sentences, and these sentences becoming a paragraph. And you can only do so if you can understand each word, phrases, sentences, and the thoughts that they communicate. And as you make use of connecting words, then you can really come up with a paragraph that tells a specific idea to your readers. Okay, let's proceed. What's new? Read the set of events and rewrite the following details on your answer sheet to create a coherent story. So let's read the details. Finally, the old lady crossed the street safely and Juan was able to reach school on time. One morning, Juan is in a hurry going to school. Then he thought of helping the old lady even though he will be late in school. Suddenly, he saw an old lady carrying a pull-up basket crossing the street. Now, how are we going to arrange the given details for us to come up with a coherent story? Let's give it a try. Okay? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is the first sentence. One morning, Juan is in a hurry going to school. You get it correct. Next sentence. Suddenly, he saw an old lady carrying a pull-up basket crossing the street. So you are correct. Number three, number three, then he thought of helping the old lady even though he will be late in school. And lastly, of course, we have there the word finally. The old lady crossed the street safely and Juan was able to reach school on time. So let's read it again. One morning, Juan is in a hurry going to school. Suddenly, he saw an old lady carrying a pull-up basket crossing the street. Then, he thought of helping the old lady even though he will be late in school. Finally, the old lady crossed the street safely and Juan was able to reach school on time. So, okay. So that is the correct order of the details for us to be able to come up with a coherent story. Now, let us answer the follow-up questions. Number one, what words are used to signal the correct sequence of the events? We have there the words one morning, suddenly, then, and finally. How do you think the ideas were able to relate to one another? So, how do you think the ideas were able to relate to one another? Of course, the idea that is presented in each sentence and the chronological order of the ideas that are presented in the sentence. You have there one morning, then one morning Juan is in a hurry going to school. Suddenly, he saw an old lady carrying a pull-up basket crossing the street. Then he thought of helping the old lady even though he will be late in school. Finally, the old lady crossed the street safely and Juan was able to reach school on time. So each sentence conveys a certain idea that is related to one another, and all you have to do is to follow the order of the ideas or of the events that happened in the story. Okay, so what do we call these words? We call them 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we call them transitional devices. So how do these words help to create a story? How do transitional devices help to create a story? They they help in the chronological order of ideas in the story, as if they help in sewing the story. Okay, the logical, they make the ideas flow smoothly, making the ideas flow logically, making or leading to a coherent story. So, last question, what kind of paragraph were you able to create using the given details? It's a paragraph of what? It's a paragraph of narration because you have there a narration of Juan's experience on a certain morning. So, let's continue. What is it? Writing a paragraph involves deep understanding of how one can achieve well focused and unified ideas in a composition. For example, when students are asked to come up with a summary of a story, they tend to chop parts of the story and put it in their summary. If that is so, it leads to create unrelated details that do not contribute in the oneness and clarity of one's summary. It is important to use strategies developing ideas using a particular pattern. One of these is through narration. A narrative text contains the plot which gives direction in making a story. So you tell your story. So whenever you are asked to summarize a story in one paragraph, then you are being asked to narrate the story in a quick pace. So how are you going to do it? Are you going to chop every portion of the story, or you will be chopping certain portion of the stories, then you will just be putting them together, or you will be narrating the story based from your understanding and making use of transitional devices that will connect the ideas or the happenings in the story smoothly. And of course, you have to remind yourselves that there are ideas that you should be looking for. And the idea that you should be looking for must be the ideas that can be found in the plot of the story. So you must know the so-called plot of a story, having there the introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement, or the ending. So you should remind yourselves that as you narrate a story, then you must not forget the important details that fall under plot of a story. And as you pick each coming from the story, then do not forget to make use of transitional devices that will make them as one, that will make them interrelated to each other, or will make the flow of your narration smoothly. Okay, wherein the flow of your narration will be that smooth, and of course, as you present it, then your listeners or your readers will be entertained by it because you have their smooth flow of details, and you call it narration. So again, a narrative text contains the plot which gives direction in making a story. Okay, so do not forget that so-called plot whenever you tell your story. So tell your story. Looking at the image, maybe by now you are being reminded by Lola Bashang, who's a famous storyteller in Philippine television or in Philippine literary text. So what do you think made Lola Bashang and also that woman that good when it comes to storytelling? So let's find it out. In developing narration, sequential presentation of events plays an important role. Signal words help to create unified thought and to show the transition of events to the next. This leads us to focus on the use of the action words in the story. It also helps to move the story and makes the story interesting. The chronological ordering of events helps to show the reader how the story moves. Most of the common transitional words are first, next, then, after, and suddenly. Moreover, it is also important to give specific details in pointing out the direction of the story. So, if you want to become like Lola Bashang or that woman who's really entertaining those children as she delivered or delivers a story, then you should boost your knowledge on how to narrate a story. And what is being said here is that you must know how to present sequencing of events or events in the story through the use of signal words or transitional devices. Okay, because they will unify the events in the story, and of course they will they will make the listeners or the readers understand more because the details in the story will be in a chronological order, which will help the listeners or the readers follow what's happening in the story. Okay, so it's always good that your details are pointing out to a certain direction or pointing out the direction of the story. Is that portion of the story that you are telling is already leading to the climax, or you are already in the climax and you are now going down to the polling action, which is now leading to the denouement of the story. So you should be that good when it comes to telling a story. So you boost yourselves when it comes to storytelling by making yourselves aware of the so-called signal words or transitional devices. And what are the commonly used transitional words? We have first, next, then, after, and suddenly, and etc. Okay? So let's proceed. Can you recognize those characters, cartoon characters that we have in the image? Maybe you can consider them as your super friends. Now let's find out how is that connected to this activity of ours. What's more, read a paragraph and answer the following questions that follow. Being a transferee is never easy. At first, I was hesitant to come, but my mother told me that I would find new friends in Masayahin Senior High School. I would never forget the day I first entered the school. I felt so shy and nervous. I did not know anyone for I was a new grade 11 student. When I entered my first class looking for a chair to sit in, a boy sitting beside the window sill asked me, "Are you new in the school?" And I answered shyly, "Yes." Then he offered me the vacant seat beside him. He was Jasper, an old student in that school. We got along with each other well in our class. We worked on our assignments and school projects. He slept in our house doing our research work. After a year, we both realized that in many ways we had a lot of similarities in terms of interest in life. In the end, we became best of friends. Now let's proceed to the questions. Okay, dealing with the questions. Before I ask the first question there, I would like to know if you have also a super friend by now, just like the transferee in that Masayahin High School who found a super friend in the persona of Jasper. How about you? Do you have a super friend even though we are in this new normal setup of schooling? I hope that you have one. Okay, so let's proceed to the questions. Where and when did the story happen? It happened. It happened where in Masayahin National High School when the boy transferred to that school. So what transitional devices are used to indicate the chronological order of time? So for the transitional devices that will indicate the chronological order of time, so kindly just go back to the text and try to figure out what are the transitional devices used in the story. So okay, let's go back to the text. Let's find out what are the transitional devices. You have there at first. Okay, so you have at first. What else? Okay. At first, I cannot see. Then we have there. Then okay, after a year. So only those I noticed. You just go back to it. Okay. Next question. Next question is, wait, next question. So what event happened first? So the event that happened first was when he transferred to the school and he was offered a seat. He saw a boy sitting beside the window sill who offered him a seat. Okay? So you just check it in the story. Then what does the paragraph tell? The paragraph tells us the story on how a boy gained a friend in his new school. Okay, so you have there the narration of the boy on how he's able to find a super friend. Okay, then what sequence is presented in the story? So, what sequence is presented in the story? You have the chronological order of events. Okay, so just like in a paragraph, so your paragraph will not be that good if you do not have the parts of a paragraph beginning with a topic sentence, supporting details, and concluding sentence. So in that story, you have there what? The boy who transferred in that school, who met a friend, then they went along that good, then they realized that they were best of friends. So you have there the proper sequence of events presented in a chronological order. Okay? So let's proceed. What I have learned. Choose the best word or group of words that will complete the statements. You just say your answer after I finish reading the question or the number twice. Okay, so what are the choices? We have chronological ordering, narration, transitional devices, sequence, and plot. So let's have number one. Blank is a writing pattern that is used to tell a story. Blank is a writing pattern that is used to tell a story. Five, four, three, two, one. The correct answer is narration. Number two, a narrative text contains the blank which gives direction in the story. A narrative text contains the blank for which gives direction in the story. So what is the answer? Five, four, three, two, one. Correct. It's plot. Number three. Blank are words or phrases that help carry a thought from one sentence to another, from one idea to another, or from one paragraph to another. Again, blank are words or phrases that help carry a thought from one sentence to another, from one idea to another, or from one paragraph to another. The correct answer is five, four, three, two, one. It's transitional devices. Number four, most of the common transitional words to show blank of events are first, next, then, after, and suddenly. Most of the common transitional words to show blank of events are first, next, then, after, and suddenly. So, what is the answer? Five, four, three, two, one. It's chronological ordering. And lastly, we are now on number five. The blank of events helps to show the reader how the story moves. Again, the blank of events helps to show the reader how the story moves. Of course, we only have a word left there that is sequence. So that would be all for what you have learned. Let's go on. Additional activity. In a short paragraph, narrate how something originated in your place or community. So you will be writing a paragraph about something, and the manner of presenting that paragraph is through narration. And as you write it, be guided of the score guide. So you will get 5 points if all transitional devices are appropriate. The narration was very clear. 3 points, some transitional devices are appropriate. The narration was clear. 1 point, no transitional devices used in the narrative and the narration is unclear. So kindly check your Google Classroom and look for the Google Form link regarding this activity. Thank you. Have a good day and God bless us all.